call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Neil Johnson,
Here.
Greg Collier. Here. Cameron McCarron,
Here.
Joel Gardner,
Yes, ma'am.
Steve Smith, Bill Schoonover. Here. Micah Thomason.
Here. Has Steve gonna come in on Zoom or no?
He said he might.
Any comments from the audience at this time? If not, we'll proceed with the election of officers for 2022. Be open for comment and nominations for volunteers.
If I may make the suggestion that we keep the slate the same with the addition of Bill as the secretary.
Joel? With,
Bill as the secretary.
I thought you said Joel.
No, Bill. Bill.
We
I can
have a
second that.
suggestion to keep it the same with Bill as the secretary.
All right, now I don't take shorthand.
Well, that, she got by with it on WKRP for a long time. Maybe you can-
All right, I'll accept the nomination with the understanding I do have some health issues I'm dealing with right now, but my full intent is to be on the commission, going forward. So let's start with that, and I'll be glad to try to support the commission.
Be good. Any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion. That was a suggestion, wasn't it?
It started out as a suggestion for discussion, and now I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, do we need to do a quick approval of the minutes
I
on
did
item
miss it.
3?
I'm sorry, I did miss it, didn't I? We're back up to number 3, approval of minutes from November the 18th.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All opposed? We have Steve Patton here that has a request for a hangar, build a hangar and land lease on the, over by 265. You want to come to the podium? James, are you familiar with the proposal on that, the size and everything?
Well, he's yet to determine.
Yeah, we're still doing some due diligence. I had a couple of questions, though, that needed to be answered here, I think, as opposed to planning or something like that. The drawing that I saw that was given to me by Garver Engineers, that showed the large scale for that area over there, showed 4 hangar plots, and they were platted out 100 by 100 on the 2 closest to the ramp, or where the ramp is going to be extended to, and then the 2 closest to Crossover Road, or Old Missouri, were 100 by 70. And my question is, because I want to lease the spot next to the ramp, which would be immediately north of where the city of Springdale is building one. Can the size of that hangar be adjusted? Maybe, if nothing else, maybe just flip-flopped with the one closest to Crossover. Because I don't need 100 by 100. 100 by 70 would be fine with me. But I'd like to have the one next to the ramp, next to the airport.
As I understand it, those, the large scale on that and the sizing of those were suggestive. Adam, would you like to address that? We felt like we would be making adjustments based on the need. And size people would request.
That's exactly right. And we talked, we gave them that same feedback, but said, obviously, we'd want you to come to the commission and just chat about it. But yes, we put sizing in there just for master planning drainage and things like that, just to get a feel for what it could be. But it is completely up to y'all as a body, as hangar opportunities come up, to decide how you want to use the space.
I'm confused on exactly the location you were suggesting. We're in the one we're building is in the back right-hand corner, right? No, I'm sorry, the front right-hand corner.
So-
As you're standing on the runway looking toward those hangar spots, it would be the front right-hand corner. Next,
Yeah,
next to
front on the
Crawford
south
Construction.
side of taxiway, and then we have one between there and 265. Oh,
Right, and James said somebody was wanting that one.
We've got a few people interested, yes.
so you're talking about on the opposite side,
Would be to
From
the north of
the
the
one
one
we're building.
Springdale's gonna build.
be directly across.
Right. Yeah, and it led to the question of how much of that development has to be done by me, because I'm the only one building there, and nobody's building that one between me and Crossover to share in that cost. Has to be a road brought in, and they said something about a sewer line extension with a manhole, things like that. So if I build first, I have to provide all of that infrastructure. Is that correct?
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I would say is typically, I know with the city of Springdale, if you build along the right of way, they want you to extend the utilities along
Oh,
that
you're
same right
talking
of way.
about down on 265.
Right. Yep. That's what I would expect. But again, that's a plain decision more than mine. We just want to give him a heads up of what we thought could happen, so that way, he knew as much as he could ahead of time.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out what my maximum exposure is here.
And that's something we can't delve into today. We'll have to, go back and get a proposal. The engineers will look at it. We may have to go before the planning commission. There were some exceptions they put on our building that we're gonna build because there was still a gap between there and the 265 that will have to be part of the hangar that's next to 265, landscaping and walks and things of this nature. And I don't know how that plays out, but I was under the impression we had all the utilities there for all four of those lots.
Yeah, so we have water for all the lots. Sewer's on 265, and so we're just bringing it in for y'all's hangar with a service line. And so something similar would have to be done over there for their sewer. I think it's more of the land side access, like a road access. We're obviously just bringing the road to your side, but to extend it around the back of the north side, that would probably be something that the planning commission would want. They've talked about wanting to keep that access, land side, air side separate. And we did mention to them the same thing y'all had, which is, we had when we got through planning commission, we had to sign agreement that within so many years after ours isn't built, if someone doesn't get built next to us, we have to do the improved facade because it's up against 265 and landscaping, sidewalks, that kind of thing.
I would think as of today, it is available and we can work out the details, as we progress. But there's no way we could have an answer for you.
Sure.
at
So I
this
think
point.
we're all in agreement that we're fine with changing the size of it. Those were just suggestions. So the planning commission's gonna be your hurdle, and that's gonna,
Right.
I highly recommend talking to planning commissioners individually and kind of getting a feel for
I
that.
don't want to talk to them.
I don't think we can do the dirty work
Did I
for
say
you on
that out loud, or was I just thinking it?
Well,
We worked our way through it too, and even though we're the city,
Yeah.
we still had to jump
I
through all those
understand.
hoops and play those games. So, and they were pretty lenient with exceptions for, like Adam was saying, that they gave us 3 years to develop that, and because they're going to want that side of the building to look pretty, unless there's a building between you and 265.
Is the spot next to the Springdale hangar, is it already taken?
Closer to
The one
265.
between the Springdale hangar and 265?
No,
Not yet.
Would it be cheaper if I put my hangar there?
that would probably be the most logical.
That would be the most logical, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're already bringing
As far
utilities.
as-
utilities are already there. You would have some front of the building towards 265 beautification and plants grass that you'd have to do, but that would definitely be the cheaper route to go.
I might look at that,
All the infrastructure will be there.
yeah.
This whole
And that would be
street.
the 70 by 100 that would fit with their plan.
We're
Yeah, it wouldn't
very,
be bad.
we really want to encourage the growth of this. We want that to develop. It was our whole intention in doing this, was to start it with
Okay.
the single hanger, and then, so
Right.
we're 100% on board with you. We just
Yeah.
we have to work through the planning commission to
Sure.
get the details.
I could probably do that, as opposed to, I want it out on the ramp where I can sit out in my old age and watch planes take off and land. But I'm already in my old age, so that's gone. That ship has sailed.
Why
I'm
we
now
do
wanting to
this,
save
ju-
money.
If that lot would be agreeable to you, just proceed toward
Okay.
that and see what we can come up with as a final product.
Okay, if it's allowable that everybody's under the understanding that that's the lot I'm gonna take, and they won't sign it over to somebody else,
You're the first person to bring that lot up to
Okay.
us.
then
James
I'll
may have
just,
had people talking, but people talk a
okay,
lot.
I'll just proceed. I'll get with the planning people and I'll get a
Well-
copy of Adam's plot design and go from there.
We'll get with James and and we'll do something that gives you the first right of refusal on it
Okay,
and go from there. And then-
Great.
So you'll feel comfortable about.
okay, great.
investing.
We'll move forward then.
Okay.
Good deal.
That's
Thanks.
good. Now, we had, James informed me that it's not on the agenda, but Milestone also wanted to talk to us about the same thing. We've only got 4 lots over there, and so,
We just give away your hanger?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm Travis Ruff with Milestone. And, yeah, I guess there was 3 spots when I came in here, and maybe there's 2 now. I think when we came in, we were probably looking for either that lot that he just spoke about or the one that's closest to the ramp that he talked about first. So, but we're interested in being considered for leasing that space. And we actually would build the same hangar that you are building now. And so it would be the same common look and feel. We have the plans for it, so I'd love to be considered.
Well, you understand the procedure and everything, so.
Yes, sir.
We can go ahead and get their names on the list too.
Yes, sir.
And see, give you a cushion there that it's yours if we can work the deal out.
Great. Sounds perfect.
Which spot was,
I think our preference, Mike may be able to speak well for it, but I think our preference actually would have been the one that he just spoke of, but at the same time, it'd be the other one would be the one that's closest to the ramp.
Okay.
So we would have some questions that we would have to work out on how we're handling those things, but we obviously know the commission is gonna handle those things in the planning
All
commission.
4 of those are good lots.
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you, they're their choice. And that's
Yeah.
why we put that over there.
So,
We felt like it was, and it's gonna be an asset to the airport.
Yes, and that's something, I'll get his contact information and maybe we can work together and come up with a plan that works for everybody. And if this works, I'll be open to considering building more out there, so.
And Travis, the one
Yes,
that
sir.
you're looking at, would it be 100 by 100?
100 by 100,
Okay.
yes. And we'd be leasing it out. Obviously, there's a list of people who are looking for hangar space. It's not just for me or anything, so we'd be building it out and looking for leasees, so.
I would think that the city would do the same variances on that one that they did for us on,
Yeah.
as far as finishing out
That's-
towards 265.
Yes, yes, sir. So, and we realize that if it's on the 265 route, we're gonna have some frontage facing that we're gonna have to make look better than just a straight building, so.
Right.
Great. Any other
Okay.
questions for me, or y'all good?
So just deal with James on it
We will.
in the meantime, and then we'll go with the engineers and go from there.
We'll do it. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, I think I've been on the committee for, I think, 10 years, and that's the first time we've ever had, like, we feel like a decision we made, we have confirmation it was correct. You know what I mean? Like, we were nervous for the people who want to build hangars there. I think we were right.
As far as, in real estate, we talk about location, location, location. You kind of have to consider that too. That is really, it gives the owners access off of 265. It's just a great deal.
You know, in giving James the heads up that someone is going to take a lot that there might be 2 or 3 people talking to him about. Someone may jump quickly to the lot. I mean, those 4 can fill up quick. I mean, all 4 could go pretty quick now that they've kind of been spoken for and there's someone actually making a step towards it. So a lot of talk until someone actually starts pouring gravel and stuff happens. So that's exciting, yeah.
And Travis, we have a little more property off of Powell too, as far as your consideration of future development. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility too.
Sure. I think that will start moving soon also. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you. Daniel, you have anything for us from Summit?
All right, good to see everybody again. Just want to give you a quick recap, and I want to look at the last couple of years and kind of show you where we're at, kind of pre-pandemic, and then where we're at now. 2019, we did for Jet A 428,184 gallons purchased for us, and avgas was 82,907. 2020, we saw a 33% drop in jet, a 17% drop in avgas. But 2021, we were actually up 6% over 2019 on jet and down 10% on avgas sales from 2019. And that kind of coincides with what we've been seeing practically with operations. The corporate traffic coming in has been a lot more robust in its resurgence and growth. And then the smaller guys, more individual aircraft, they're taking a little bit longer to kind of come up and get back to their pre-pandemic operating levels as far as fuel consumption is concerned. Do you have any questions about fuel?
I will ask this one question. Is there a way, Daniel, you can get that data to Beth in time so she can insert it into the board packet?
Yeah, if you like my numbers that I present to you.
Yeah.
Well,
That way we can actually start getting the visual of what you're talking about. Because I'm
Absolutely.
attempting to run these numbers through my brain cell,
Sure.
comparative one year to the next, and it's just a lot easier to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do have one brain cell. That's all I got left.
Yeah. I'll add some pretty pictures in for you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Crayons, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, do you want the crayons included?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. And then regarding hangar space, I'm getting a lot of interest in people. Of course, you know what the waiting list is like, but we've got quite a few people aware that we're going to be getting the first 100 by 100 hangar over on the east side. So I've got a number of aircraft, turbine aircraft specifically, that are really interested in occupying that as soon as it's complete. So I'm hoping within the first month, 2 months, it'll be full. Maybe I can get 4, hopefully 5 aircraft in there. But I've got people that are actively calling me on a monthly basis, asking for updates. So, but that's all I have, unless you have any other questions.
Daniel, with just going forward with respect to that building, the 4 or 5 tenants, they occupy the building, you'll be able to respond to their needs on the east side as far as movement of aircraft within the hangar. What exactly can and will you do to facilitate their access?
So we'll treat it much like we do our other larger hangars, where we'll have sole access over moving the aircraft on our own. So we're looking at a couple different things to make that happen efficiently, and that involves maybe adding personnel to allow more time to be able to do that. We won't allow a customer to move any aircraft because, of course, they're not on our insurance or anything like that. So that's understood for our tenants now, and that's what we're going to continue with going forward.
Okay, that was my concern. If an individual decided they needed to jump on the tow and move a King Air, yeah, I don't think we want that happening.
No, there's some bigger problems if that were to happen.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ernest, do you have anything for us?
I thought you were gonna come bearing great news for us today, Ernest.
Big checks from Jeff.
I guess the best news is we're not in trouble.
Nothing's changed.
Nobody's shooting at us.
We're waiting for bankruptcy still?
Nope. As I mentioned to them, we've moved on from what was left behind as ours, and we're moving on from there. So
Ernest, I've got a question, just like with respect to Milestone Construction. If they expressed interest in trying to finish out that skeleton over there, can we or could we proceed with them or anybody else for
Yes.
that matter?
Yes.
Okay, so it's ours now.
We made our position known some time ago, and there's been no efforts to dispute that assertion made by the city. I'll put it that way.
What
And
do
I-
we do about the 4,600, 5,480?
For the,
What he owes is still in back hanger rent.
we've already got a judgment
Okay.
for
So it's
that.
just-
We just have to collect the judgment. Sometimes it's easier to get a judgment than it is to collect one.
Yeah, yep.
But we do have a judgment against him for that.
What about, and I'm not looking at it, but like Fricks and some of the other ones that are past due?
Albatross.
We actually have a judgment against Mr. Frick and Ms. Sears as well. And it's a matter of trying to find them, again, to get them, both of these were default judgments. We filed the complaints, we got the people served, and then, I think on Mr. Frick and Ms. Sears, we may have done it by warning order, but we do have judgments in both cases, if I remember correctly. And Albatross, I believe we have a judgment on that one as well. Yes, that's the same as the previous occupant of the
Right.
hangar space.
You got us all cleaned up? Looks
I
like-
hope so.
Just waiting.
Better than it was about this time last year, I think. But
The Gilbo, Barry Gilbo, do we have judgment on that one too?
what's the date on that one? I don't have that.
It's over at 90 days. He's out of the hangar 18, 16. Does that happen?
I'm not aware of any other ones that, I know we went through those exhaustively a year or so ago. Gilbo. There were some that were supposed to be taken off because they were so old. And that might have been one of those that really was supposed to be taken off the books, but we can go back and look. I remember there were 2 or 3 that had been on there forever, and they just needed to be taken off because the statute of limitations had passed and everything, so.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Airport operations, Laura?
So he's trying to collect money and I'm up here to try to spend it for us. So I've included in the packet today from Modern Fence Company. It's just the first quote I got, kind of a starting point. We were talking about a new keypad or card reader for our fences. So this is an estimate, that quote I got from these guys. He gave me 3 different styles. First one's basically what we have right now, just a thing you punch in your code, and that'll be the same as what we have currently, and that's
One code for everybody.
one code for everybody. I think it had, what did I write down? It might have had multiple codes, but that's still, I mean, even with multiple codes, people give them out to whoever they want, and we never know who has them then. So then the next option's an actual card reader where everybody would get 1 or 2 cards, probably depending on what they wanted. And that's the one I like the most, because that way they only do get 1 or 2 cards, and they can't just hand them out to whoever. And we have people that have deliveries sometimes, and they'll just give them the code and they come through the fence, and they're not chauffeuring them back to where they need to go, and that can cause some problems. So I like that one the most. And then the last one is very expensive, and I think it has stuff on there that we would never use. And we're not that large of an airport. And it's got internet access and all that kind of stuff that I don't think we'd use most of that stuff. And it requires a monthly service fee. So I would say the last one's out, first one would be out, and then if we go get some more quotes for some card readers from some other companies. But I chose Modern Fence because they're in Springdale.
So do you know on the card reader, can you deactivate a card?
Yes, they have to be physically programmed at the gate on the reader. So they need to be different, and then if they leave, I can go in there and,
But if someone
Deactivate
gets
that card.
delinquent, we can go in and deactivate their card
Yes.
where they can.
Now, with the card reader too, that enables us to know that the assigned person with that fob has been in and out. I mean, I would assume that would include, the ability to log that or have a entry history.
I think that it had something, I can't remember now. We can put up to 1,000 codes into that particular one. And I think that it had the capacity to store, I don't remember now. I wanted to present all this last month and I remembered a little bit more.
Yeah, I was involved with a card reader previously, and at times it was very helpful to be able to determine who was coming and, I mean, down to the minute when they were in and out of there. So I would think that we would want that. I don't know what the other commissioners would think about it, but from a security standpoint, be able to track who's coming and going.
Do we know exactly how much each individual card is?
The quote on here, yeah, it's about $5 a piece.
I just missed it.
On this
Okay.
quote.
Oh, it's on the back.
And they have on there 100, and obviously we'd want at least 200 probably, because we have about 100 units just to start with, and if everybody wanted two. And then I think that if they wanted more after two, say, then they could pay to cover the cost of the cards. Something like to that effect.
Fire department all gets cards. They have their own Knox locks on.
They should have a Knox box.
Yeah, we have those remotes, and those will still work with the same motors that we have. So you
I
can-
would also suggest that, I mean, if we do take that route, that there's consideration of some limit as to how many each individual can have under any circumstances.
Yeah. I agree.
Agreed.
I don't wanna make this inconvenient for our tenants, so I might even consider a punch code of some sort as opposed to just cards.
They had
Maybe
those
something
that,
we can monitor and we can see if this punch code's getting handed out too often, or maybe there's some sort of legal something we can put together that puts responsibility on the person that's been issued the code if something happens with that code.
I don't think it's an inconvenience to have a card in your pocket.
Yeah. What is
Right.
our major concern right now with the system we have?
and I discussed with Daniel too, we haven't had any real issues that we're aware of that's been security type issues or anything. But there was just to update it and to make it feel like it was more secure out there.
Well, and I would say right now, we got judgments against a couple different people that have the common code over there right now, and I don't trust pissed off, upset human beings. I don't.
But
The
there,
code's changing with the rent increase.
When will that be?
It's March 1st, I think is when.
May 1st.
It's May 1st.
I would still say with today's technology and our ability to go ahead and track the movement of every human being we see, why not track them coming in and out of the airport? And if we hand everybody a couple of cards, somebody loses one, we deactivate that card that they lost, and we issue them a new one, and the cost of a new card is $25. That'll teach you not to lose that card again.
I mean, if that's one of your reasonings, then we need to put a gate across the north side where those private ones are, and then how do you stop anyone from the east side?
you have pilots that use that gate, and you have passengers that use that gate.
The person
not
that
always,
we're referring to is in
what I
one of
mean.
those hangars up there
Yep.
currently, so. We can't stop them from coming across the airport.
Security. Hey,
But my question was, how much trouble have we had with negative? with the
To my
system
knowledge, I
we
don't think
have?
we've had any other than a few errant delivery people who we've had, people have said that they've driven too fast or were unsure where they needed to go and be because they weren't chauffeured. That's really probably the biggest thing that I would think.
Regardless how it's activated, you can pass the card on, you can pass other technology on. It's easy to pass the number on, but, I just don't know, I'm not convinced that we have a problem right now.
I have a few. I'd change the code, start May 1st. Just clean it all up and start with that. Change the
Yeah.
code, not worry about updating these systems,
Yeah.
so we have problems.
Just change the code and then monitor it and see if we can't come up with, keep looking to see if we can come up with another, system.
Right, I mean, yeah, changing the code will cut out all the people that don't belong in there now, and then the people that still belong will get the code from whoever.
If you have someone that can man up 24/7, the way they used to do it in Tulsa, I know when we went there all the time and went into 1 hour parking, 2 hour parking to pick up passengers, things of this nature, you just simply voice in your pilot's license, and they would punch a button, open the gate for you.
But I mean, to the other effect, you can park in the parking
we
lot and
don't
walk
have
through the
that.
terminal out onto the ramp. So
We don't have that.
we don't have, there's nobody stopping you from going on the ramp, so to speak. I mean, obviously, the front desk monitors it to some degree, but you don't always know who everyone is.
Laura, who will have responsibility when we change the gate code? For whatever reason, somebody doesn't have the new code, who do they have to go to get that new code? How will that be
I
controlled?
imagine that would be myself.
Okay, so you can make a judgment call as
It's
to,
been changed numerous times.
yeah, so, I mean,
Yeah,
somebody
a
gets,
lot of people still call James because they still have his number.
okay. But
He's
somebody
always
gets to decide, hey, this is a legitimate request. Okay,
I mean, we've sent the letter out and we've had a few returned, and so I've contacted those people and then told them over the phone, and they've received the letter now, so. I don't know of anybody, and I posted signage down in the terminal that if you haven't gotten your letter and are aware of it, to let me know, and I haven't heard anything on that, so hopefully everybody's aware. And if they come one day and then they'll probably either call me or the front desk, and the front desk will have the code, so.
For the lack of better description, the stigma, that airport has a stigma about it that the general public doesn't feel like it belongs to them. And 99 out of 100 people who goes up there don't feel like they're entitled to go through those gates. They think it's reserved for only pilots that's what we try to do, is keep everybody off the ramp that's doesn't need to be there. It's got a pretty good police itself. About now they can walk in the terminal, ask for access, and go through the terminal. You go right on out on the ramp. And again, all the years I've been associated with that, I don't know if we've ever had a breach of security there that was a problem, which is a pretty good record.
it is.
And, at one time, we didn't even have locks on the gates. Just open them up and go.
Laura, have you had any feedback on the rent increase letter?
Just a
overall?
couple, a few people here and there have said, why are you raising it? And that's a lot of money. And I'm like, it's really not a lot of money, so.
So it's
So-
been very minimal.
Yeah, very few
Any-
people have
any
said anything. A
kickback?
lot of people were like, I mean, that's expected, and it hadn't happened in several years, and it's not like it's an every year kind of thing. And like I said, across the board, it was about 8 to 9%, I would say, overall for average on all the hangars. There was only those 2 that somehow got skipped in 2018, and now they're up to speed. And I said, I'm sorry this happened to you, but you've been paying less for 3 years than everyone else, so now you're gonna pay the same. And he's like, well, that is what it is. And there's nowhere else to go, so, and I still think we're cheaper than everywhere else.
We charged Laura with this duty, and she's brought back the information. We've had a chance to review it and talk about other things. I would love to either, if we're gonna buy a system, I'd love to entertain a motion that we move forward toward that goal, or if we just pause for a while and keep it as is until such time as we may have a problem. Or we research the technology a little more and see if we can come up with something a little better tailored to it.
Right, that's why I said this was just my first
Right.
estimate that I got, and I didn't really know what to ask for either, what I would get from him.
Sure.
You really don't want to wait until you have a problem to address the problem.
No, but that's a real good point. I'm trying to anticipate how you avoid that. Because there's comings and going regardless. And if we've got a card, they're gonna pass it on. And then it can get lost, it could do all kinds of things. It's hard to monitor exactly who's going in and out there unless you have a gate. And, but like I say, that's where we're at right now. Do we pursue it for a while or we table it? What do we do?
I would, my personal opinion is don't waste any more time on it. I agree, Greg, you're right. If there's a problem, we wish we had done this, but if this is not, I mean, putting new locks on those gates isn't gonna solve the issue. We don't have any security walking through the terminal. We have no security at multiple entrances. I mean, this is, I think we can spend $4,000 of the taxpayer money better than that.
And they can walk through any hangar over on the east side.
It's, what we have now is the facade of security, and I think it works just fine.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. We'll change the code and then we can monitor it through the end of the year and see where we are this time next year.
Okay. Anybody else?
When's the last time we actually changed the code? How long ago was that? On the gate?
No, I'm sure. I bet it's 25 years.
No,
it's been.
it's fairly regular.
Probably 6 years with the last time we did a rent increase. Every time we do a rent increase, and that's looked at every 3 years.
I think it was tower previously, and now it's ground, you know.
I like the old field elevation better.
Should we consider
Yeah,
doing
I
that?
think it was 13, yeah.
Should we consider doing that
1352,
on a
yeah.
more regular basis, changing that code, just to help with our security around the airport?
Well, it's gonna be your cost of mailing everybody notice.
Just asking.
It's not been an issue so far.
Yeah.
The FBO has their own code, so if they go through a bunch of employees, we can change their code without changing ours every time.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
That it on that? Okay. So my next thing is, our tower is owned by the city and we contract out our labor for in there. So we're not, the FAA does not run our tower, although we obviously follow all their guidelines and everything. So we got notice today saying that they will no longer require us to have our radios inspected. We've been doing 2-year annual inspections on that radio equipment up there. And so we don't have to do that anymore. And it was kind of a waste of our money that we had to do it in the past, since our radios are like circa 1950s, all the receivers and transmitters we have up there. So I went ahead and I got, this is just a preliminary quote estimate I got for a new radio system. And so I've talked to Greg at Garver, seeing if we could get a grant that way, and we might get some other grant somewhere for facilities use. And I don't think I've included it in the packet, but this quote is for $148,800 for equipment. And of course, we'd have to have someone come in and revamp the whole system, how all the new stuff would go in. So we'd need like an engineering, somebody to come in and work that all out and see what extra stuff we may need to upgrade outlets or new wiring, things like that. So that cost may go up. But that's something, this has become now a safety concern for us because it's so old. They can't find parts. If anything breaks, I would call him to come and do his biannual repair or his service on it. And he said, if anything's broken, I can't fix it. There's no
Now-
parts anywhere.
Now, which radio
So-
is this? Communication with aircraft?
Yes, our tower, all of our tower stuff.
Tower radio.
And back.
So we're looking at approximately $50,000?
150 for the for this equipment,
Yeah.
barring any other.
What would be the time frame on that?
Well, we'd have to get someone in to look at what we have and see how they would need to reconfigure the layout that the tower has. 'Cause right now, the radio system is right below where the actual tower, where they sit. So that would all have to be reworked and however they do that, that
I'm sure
computer
it's more
stuff.
compact now.
Sorry?
I'm sure they're more compact now.
Probably.
And what's the difference between the ones that are put on airplanes?
Well,
These are base
good
models.
question.
just don't think every airplane out there with a radio has $150,000, even if we say it's twice that.
Well, it's considered a base. I know that it's considered a base station. I just don't know. Is this something that the FAA has to approve?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
It's no, I don't know for sure.
Well, it's gotta be an
I think they have to be FAA approved radios.
FAA approved. to make
I
sure.
understand that, but I guess I'm confused. This is a major communication with the aircraft from the tower, ground, air, and all. So I would think it would have to be FAA certified.
Right.
The radios themselves, I'm sure, would have to be, right.
What we need to do is just put a packet together and see if we can get a grant.
Right.
There's a grant out there that's 100% FAA grant that would cover, if we qualify for it, we can get Garver to put the packet together and start submitting grant requests and see what we get. But what she's saying is, if they go down, we can't fix them.
Right. No, everything's obsolete now.
Yes.
I understand that. Do you have a comment on that, Adam?
Greg knows more about that grant program than I do, and it's coming out soon, though, the opportunity to apply for it. But if you want, we can maybe talk about it. We're gonna give a whole update on all the grants that just came out recently. We can just have that be a piece of it, if you think about it.
Can we bring it back to next meeting?
Yeah, this was just, I was just getting the initial quote, just see where
Right.
the radios would sit.
Can
'Cause,
we include labor with that? Would that be?
It's included. You have 10 days at $1,500 a day for 15,000 days. $15,000. 2 people for 5 days.
Oh, that wasn't the
Adam, is that
package.
reasonable? Like, is this what you expect? $150,000 for this?
Yeah, I know Rogers is doing some equipment upgrades in their tower to the tune of $300,000.
And they've got a newer tower.
I just blown away that that's that expensive. And it's gonna take 2 people a week to install it.
It takes longer than that because they gotta rebuild the console for the building. Because our console's designed for all the old equipment. So they're gonna have to rip the console out, rebuild it for the new equipment. So this is just a rough idea. It'll be more than that. That's just the material, which for that money we have to go out for bid anyway.
Are there several different providers that, you might expect to respond to a bid, or, any history on that?
I would think that this is just an independent cost estimate, and if we put it out to bid, you might get somebody from, these guys are from Colorado, you might get somebody from Kansas, Colorado, and Michigan.
Yeah, I think there's definitely multiple suppliers. My biggest fear is a lot of the money that just came out is tower money. So everybody's going to be wanting to do tower projects right now. And there's only so many tower providers out there. And so it's going to get real tight, real fast in that industry. And so the sooner you can jump in, the better, more than likely. And there's a lot of people right now that are planning towers just because of this new funding that came available. So
Why don't we do the research on it, get the best deal we can get, bring back commission next month, see if we can't act on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing any more important to a
We're
control
gonna have to
tower
have
than the
it.
radios. If you don't have radios, you don't have a tower.
We will, yeah, that's true. That's the only thing it's there for. And it's everything, everywhere we go. I don't care if you buy a refrigerator, you can't get parts for it. You gotta buy a new one. Everything's outdated now, so, and it probably needs it anyway. We've had it, how old is that thing?
Said circa 50.
Well, that was an upgrade.
Yeah, that was the upgrade. We got used ones from Fayetteville. That's what's in there now. So those are-
Okay.
So Adam, with this price, you can go ahead and start a grant application for the tower money at $150,000.
we should be able to soon. We know the funding source is there, but FAA has not yet released the grant application. But they're supposed to within the next 10 days.
Beautiful.
Do we know what that, is there a max on that?
Not per project, but I think the pool is 20 million. Yeah.
So what do we need to do? We need to research options, come up with 3 or 4 options next meeting, have one that we can agree on, and then grant's already written, we fill in that information and away it goes?
I would think so. We'll have the grant prepped. It's going to be one of those things where we're going to be conservative in the number, obviously, because we don't have to have hard bids to apply for this. We just have to have an estimate. So as long as we feel comfortable with an estimate, we'll apply for it. If we get it awarded, then you'd hard bid it and get someone signed up to do the work.
I definitely, I don't know if we have to make a motion, but I think we proceed with this and get it going while there's grants out there. That's what it's for.
Agreed. You wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we proceed with starting the grant process and getting a good estimate on it so that we have that for that grant and move forward in next meeting, try to nail down a specific vendor and go.
I'll second that.
Motion second, that we proceed. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Well, the reason I reached out to and got this quote is because these are the guys that came and did our 2 annual, or our inspections at the tower. So I talked to him first and then he gave me the quote and that's why I chose that one. And I haven't gotten any more because I wanted to discuss it first.
Right.
So the next thing, I think that there's still a grant out there for us to use for COVID type things at the airport. So I talked with Cameron a little bit one day and we thought about like changing our plumbing out in the bathrooms, if we could use that grant to get sensor flushes and faucets and things like that. We've got touchless soap dispensers in there already. So we thought if that grant's still hanging around, we could use it for that. So I've got quotes on plumbing.
Now,
Fixtures
what
to
bathrooms are-
How much is left in the grant?
I'm not sure. Do you remember, Cameron? 53,000 maybe or something?
What bathrooms are we talking about?
Inside the terminal building. We've got 2 men's restrooms and 2 women's. So all total, we have 10 toilets, 2 urinals.
And those are needing replaced already?
No, I just wanted to go from,
Automated, where you stick your hand under it, you don't touch anything,
Oh,
touchless
touchless.
stuff.
I didn't understand.
yeah, the faucets, you put your hand under the water so you
Oh,
don't have to,
okay.
for COVID, people's
okay.
peace of mind. And the toilets have the automatic, would have the automatic
Oh, you're
flush
talking
then.
about the faucets.
Yes.
So it's just
It's where
changing out the
everything's
hand
touchless.
Now I'm
flushes
with
to
you.
that. And then we have 2 drinking fountains hanging on the wall, one down and one up. And we would like to get one of those, both of them taken out, one of them changed to where you could put cups under and it's touchless. You just put a cup under and water come out, fill a cup. So I've got some quotes on that. That ranges from, I've got 17,200 on one quote, up to 25,200 on it, on another one, and the middle one is 23,300, all for about the same work, so.
Do we have any other ideas of how we want to spend that money?
Nothing that, that would thought, I don't know, I hadn't thought of anything else.
Did the provider that did our upgrades at the terminal and the restrooms, were they one of the bidders?
I don't know, I wasn't there then, James. Do you know who did it, the plumbing?
Is that specialized equipment that you can't?
They're over on Arcola.
No, it's not specialized.
That's what I was getting. Can it not be done locally and use local plumbers and things of this nature?
I got Mays Plumbing there, Springdale. Pascal, they're part of, in Springdale, and Multicraft worked
Wow.
out of Springdale.
This is with the federal grant, right?
Yes.
ARPA money that's got strings that can only be used for COVID-related items.
Right, which also means that it should have the string on there for Buy America, right? Does it?
I don't know. I'd look into that.
Because if it is, that's why your pricing is so freaking high, because you have to buy the American stuff, which is always priced high.
I don't know.
It's a different pot of money than what we're used to going out of. We still federal funds, but I don't know if it had Buy American Pasture or not. We'll look into it.
Right.
Well, the company Felix Thompson did all of our original, when we did the terminal upgrade. They provided.
Felix Thompson?
Felix Thompson, yes, they did the partitions and all that, so.
Are they Springdale local?
Yeah, they're on they're over on, Arcola Drive, just south of George's corporate.
And these are motion activated, I'm sure, and
Yes.
I'm finding a lot of those in restaurant stuff don't work. I don't know if they're a cheap version or what, but, and, you know, we come all, we don't, certainly are not debating COVID, but, we've been all over the map on how it spread. I know we used to wipe down everything, now they don't wipe down anything. So, is it even necessary to spend their money just because it's there? That's my question. I know a lot of people want to spend money if it's there, but
That's why I'd like to see other options.
I would too. I don't see that.
The maintenance end after we install it, you know, if it goes up, then we're eating that cost.
Right. I can tell you most of those don't work. You walk in.
Yeah, I agree on
They don't work.
the sinks in particular.
Right.
I mean, you just, it's frustrating. You go in there and try and you can't draw any water.
I know.
That's true. I would certainly like to look into, other options, other places and to go with it.
If anybody has any ideas on COVID type things, I'd look into them.
I understand.
I mean, my first thought was a robot that would go around and disinfect the whole place.
Yeah,
but
the city's
that was more
fighting
than the
this-
grant money, so.
The city's fighting this battle with a lot of money right now, I
Ernest,
think.
can you help us with that? From a legal standpoint, can you help us with the loopholes of how that can be used?
We actually have a firm that we retain, the city has, to vet these things through to make sure that they're compliant with the federal regulations. So anytime we have a request, we get the particulars to them and they vet it to make sure it qualifies.
Is there any way, maybe even Laura, next month, could we get any sort of, I don't know if it exists, a simplified list of different things that are eligible, just, topics or anything that might strike a nerve with us or trigger a thought?
You really don't know until you come up with an idea and vet it to see if it is an approved item. They don't have a list that says this is all your approved projects.
Daniel, you're in a good spot to figure something out. Clever. See if you can come up with some ideas. You probably have a couple right now.
Honestly, yeah, it's the sinks, you know, it's the sinks and the water fountains, it's the things that people touch. You know, the doors are automatic, so you don't care about those. It's a fairly open building, people can distance. There's a need for workstations. So if, for example, the idea for an individual workstation that can be sanitized, and then I've talked to Cameron about this, if the station was built, Summit would provide a computer, and, but you're kind of stretching it at that point with that idea. But as far as like customer requests and customer ideas, I've never had anybody say, man, I really wish there was a sanitizing dispenser right here. That's just, honestly, people seem to be moving away from that desire relatively.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Appreciate that. And
Thank you, Laura.
Well, unless you want to know, our hangers are
We
still
are
full and I
gonna
have a
be
long
looking
list.
we will be looking for other sources to use that money, right? Okay.
Well, I mean, a lot of things aren't real expensive and spend that kind of money on just.
Retread the stairs.
Exactly.
Get rid of that carpet that's obviously harboring everything. Replace it with something that can be cleaned.
It's COVID filled. Those times are COVID.
Yeah,
filled.
it reeks with COVID.
A few of the comments that I've heard around the airport, just in general, is, the water fountains are disgusting. you know, people really would like to see something changed with that because nobody wants to use them. And I'm sure Daniel goes through a ton of water in his little refrigerator that he has. So nobody likes to be around the water fountains. And the touchless idea came up through some members of staff that actually work for me. So that's why this whole idea of touchless stuff came up, especially around the water fountains, because they're old, they're nasty, and nobody even wants to use them.
The schools have all
So,
switched over to the
yes,
bottle.
To
the
water
bottle, yes,
dispenser.
I like that.
They've all
yes.
switched over. And it's
It makes
expensive
more
upgrade
sense than
for a water fountain.
faucet there
Right.
in the bathroom.
Yep.
They're $5,000 for the water fountain, or $10,000 or something. They were, I remember thinking this is really pretty high for a water fountain.
We didn't change those out though, did we?
No, we did not in the remodel. And like this new building here down below, they've got the touchless water dispenser. That seems to be one of the main things that most of the people talk about around the airport is that.
Makes sense.
We can certainly look into those.
Adam, have you heard anything else? You're good with stuff like that. Any other?
So I was frantically Googling. Buy American does apply. So I got that figured out. Here's how it reads. This is from the Q&A from FAA. You can use these funds for costs related to operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitation, janitorial services, combating the spread of pathogens. It's pretty open-ended. And debt service payments. What I've heard most airports doing is just using this for operational expenses still. And then that just alleviates them having to use their current funds for operational expenses. So basically just inflates your bank account. So, which I think is what most people did from the first few rounds. So it's one of those things where if you have a good project, you may put it to that. If not, you can just use it to cover operational expenses and save your money for something else.
So do we have, I don't have, I didn't see it, if we do have it, a breakdown of what the water fountain would be?
No, nobody itemized anything out like that.
I would be much more receptive to that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would too. I would support the water fountains, you know, without a doubt.
Okay, can you check on that for us for next month?
How much the price on just the water fountain?
Yes.
To,
And I think switching the carpet over to hard floors on that staircase would combat the spread of pathogens, so. That's my opinion.
Not a bad
I
idea.
could make it work in a grand. I mean, I could.
But it's still not very, it got steam cleaned in December.
Yeah, we did do that.
I can pay that bill with it too.
Okay. Anything else for Laura? If not, James?
All right, you look on, December fuel purchases, it's up from last year, so overall, we had a really good year for fuel purchases. Total operations, it was up as well. So, really good year for total operations. And then you see the financial statement.
Well, just an observation of the airport over the change in the last 5 years, basically, and more, has been the size of aircraft that's using that airport. I mean, in great numbers. We'd have some larger aircraft in there, but now it seems to be daily. We have some fairly large corporate usage at that airport.
That concrete pad report is very helpful.
Yeah, is it? Good. And, so that's, to me, I think that will continue to grow as Northwest Arkansas grows. And, it's it's just unreal, all the construction, as we all know. And so I think the airport will continue to grow and, which is a good thing. Any question from James? You got the floor. And Adam?
Okay, we got a lot to talk about today. Good news, lots of good news. So we're going to talk about some new funding opportunities that have come your way. Then we'll give a quick project update on active projects. And then I think we have some decisions to make on possible hanger stuff today. So I'll start with the funding thing. So let's go back to October of last year. That's when not the FA, the Congress passed we call it the BIL, it's the infrastructure bill. So in December, just before Christmas, we got a nice little Christmas gift where they announced the first round of that funding and how it's going to work. So how that funding is going to work is all airports, including Springdale, are going to get annual allotments of funding from this bill. That allotment is going to be based on your airport classification. You are a GA airport, general aviation airport, and then you're classified as a regional GA airport, which is the second highest level. So because of that, you receive $295,000 in this, it's called like a new bank account that you have for projects. If you stay in that category, you can probably expect to get $295 each year for the next 5 years. And it's going to work just like your current AIP program where you get $150 a year, and that's still going to be active. You're still going to get $150 a year over here, but now you're going to have a second track of $295 a year over here, unless we can bump you up a classification, which we're going to try to do that as well. So the two funding pots are completely separate. You could use pieces of both to fund a project if you wanted to. You can do separate projects with the money. Kind of like on the current funding side, you got to have a plan in place and tell FAA what your plan is. As long as you have a plan in place, they're going to hold that money for you. And you have to at least communicate that plan to them by year 4. So 4 years from now, if you don't do that by that point, though, they're going to take your money away. You guys aren't going to have any issue with that. We're going to clearly communicate what you want here very quickly. And so they're still trying to figure out some of the rules. The bill language was a little bit vague on eligibility of projects and things like that. But we are hearing that there could be some expanded eligibility for things like hangars, possibly, for this funding. And so we're hoping to know that here fairly soon. Right now, the next action with that money is we're going to revamp your CIP. So the one we submitted back in October, we're going to revamp it. FAA is going to release us a whole new spreadsheet to use that'll have the two funding sources separated. We're supposed to get that in March. Our hope is that by your March meeting, we have the first draft of that. We can talk to you about it, talk about where the money is, hopefully know a little bit more about eligibility of projects at that time, and we start getting some feedback from you on what types of projects you may want to use this separate funding for. If there is going to be some discretionary potential with this money, we don't know yet. Effectively, the folks who don't use their money wisely and don't tell the FAA what they want to do, which is more airports than you'd think, or can't do the match, there's still a 10% match associated with it. They're going to take that money away and convert to discretionary at the end of the program. So there's going to be opportunity for discretionary project applications as well. This entitlement program I've been talking about is just about half of the money that's going to FAA. The other half's going to things like towers that we're going to apply for separately. There's a terminal pot of money. That's a separate pot of money. There's FAA equipment. So there's lots of different pots of money. There's going to be lots of different possibilities to grab grants. We're going to stay on top of it, and we'll keep you posted on where we think you may have some potential for some additional grants through this pots of money over the next 5 years, because it's a 5-year bill. So all great news on that side. Before I move on from that new federal bill, any questions on that? Greg?
So I'm wondering, we don't want to jump the gun on the tower, do we? And then not have those funds available to us?
So right now our plan is to apply for the tower funding through a discretionary pot that's going to come available really soon. We don't plan right now to use your 295 on the tower, the 295 you got. We're going to shoot for some of that discretionary money for the tower. That's a whole separate pot of money just for towers, and see if we can't get it. And I believe in that money we can actually apply every year for 5 years. So it's $20 million a year for 5 years. So if we don't even get it this round, if the radios hold, we can even apply again next year for it. And so we're putting a plan in place to apply for some of that pot of money. But right now, we're not planning, and I think we want to bank some of the 295 for a few years, get a bigger project possibly out of it. I mean, that's $1.5 million over 5 years. You could do a pretty nice project with that. If we can get you bumped up a classification, it goes from 295 a year to 795 a year.
Oh, wow.
So that'd be great.
What does it take to get us bumped up in classification?
There's a lot of different ways it can happen. International flights, flights going much further than just a state over, interstate flights. So we're doing an analysis right now on the data we can get access to see where you're at and why you're where you're at. And then we're going to try to figure out, is it just like a few ops here or there that could, have some friends that could fly in from far away, could change the game for us. So
So do we know how long it would take for that change to happen?
they do it every 2 years. So the soonest you could get into the next category would be 2024.
So no worries about it. We're locked in on the first two.
Yeah, they'll look at it again December of 2023. Yep. Okay. So that was great news that we got around Christmas time. The second piece of great news we got just yesterday is the state approved two things at their meeting yesterday. One, they approved that they will match airport's 10% match for this special money. So they already matched the 10% FAA grants. They extended that same match to this new pot of money as well. So that was great news for airports like you and for the state of Arkansas. The second thing that we did not expect was they raised the cap of the 80-20 grant to $400,000 from $250,000 for hangar projects only. And so if you want to do a hangar, you can now get a $400,000 80-20 grant. So I think if you run the math, that'd be about, if you want to max it out, it's like $112,000 or so of local funds to match that $400,000 state grant on an 80-20 basis. And so that was great news. We haven't had a $400,000 state grant in like 8 years probably. And so to get the cap high again was great. More coming later. Greg's got some feedback for you there on some possibilities, as I'm sure y'all probably have some thoughts too on how to grab some of that hangar money. A quick reminder though, you have not used any of your state grants this year. You do have 2 open state grants, but they were given to you last year before July 1st, which is when the state year rolls over. So any questions on that state?
And those two that are hanging out there are 250?
One's 250, one's 150. Yeah. The 918 grant's 150, and we use one of each for that site development work associated with y'all's new hangar, 100 by 100.
So 90-10 on a 150 and 80-20 on a 250.
That's how it was, but now it's 80-20 on a 400 if you're doing a hangar.
For this year?
Mm-hmm. It went into effect immediately.
So the
Yep.
250 went up, the 90-10 is still 150.
That's correct. Yep.
Maybe our radio, I mean, we weren't doing that for radio, though there was other FAA money out.
We're going to try to get some 100% FAA money for the radios. Yeah.
How much, refresh my memory on the Powell Hanger after we made a few cuts and kicked that around, where were we?
So Greg's got a whole sheet to walk through you on that because we got some updated numbers from Olkey. And so that's one thing I think you can look at for that 400,000 is that right there. But I'll let him talk about that here in a minute with all your other project updates. So any other questions on funding before I turn over to Greg on project stuff? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Adam. So let's go over your projects. Trying to get organized here on this podium. You've got 3 active projects right now, well, 2.5. We've got the Taxiway B extension, we've got the East Hangar construction over off of 265, and then the third project is that Powell Hanger, the hangar rehabilitation. That one's not quite kicked off, we're in the planning stages, so those are the 3 projects that I'm talking about. We'll talk first about the Taxiway B extension project. If you guys remember previously, this project was the 100% FAA grant for last fiscal year. We got the construction included in last fiscal year, and that saved some money, allowed us to bank more funds for this fiscal year 2022. Construction for that project is planned to begin in March. It'll have a 150-day calendar time, so it'll end next fall sometime. For that project, what we're currently working on is we've got a pre-construction meeting scheduled for next week, next Thursday actually. In that meeting, we'll discuss a lot of the pre-construction items, safety, schedule is the main one. And so for the next meeting, we should have a finalized schedule for you guys so that we can know, hey, these are the times when we'll have some impacts to the airport. This is when the project is going to end, things of that nature. Let me look at my notes here. Additionally to that, we've also been working with Emery Sapp. That's the contractor who awarded that contract on getting some coordination of materials. They've been making some submittals to us and just handling some of those preliminary construction items. So big thing there is we got a pre-construction meeting next week. That's where we're going to get some more answers, some more finalized plans for that project. Any other questions about that one? Great. Moving on to the next project, the East Hanger construction. Like we've talked about previously, this is kind of two separate projects. We've got the hangar portion of the project that the city funded. That's the $720,000 project. We've also had the site work portion of that project. That's about $450,000. That's what we got you guys, the two ADA grants that Adam was talking about earlier. So for those two projects, we've got APAC. That's the contractor on site to do the site work, and then Olkey is doing the hangar building. So we expect those projects to be starting again in March once we get through some of this cold weather here, and that's typically when we see construction start. For those projects, we've got a 75-day contract time. And also for that one, we have the pre-construction meeting for those projects next week as well. So we'll have a finalized schedule for that. These projects will all be starting at around the same time, be ongoing at the same time. So it's about to pick up and get interesting for those construction projects around here. For the plan for the hangar building, we expect the site work and the foundation to be March, April timeframe, with the building to be delivered in April, and that's just the building package. You'll see it show up on a truck. And then the certificate of occupancy is estimated at June 20th of this year. So June 20th is when we can expect to have everything finalized on that hangar building. Any questions on that project? Great. Okay, the final project, the Powell Hanger. This is the one that I have the most to talk about. If you all remember from last time, we received an initial bid from Olkey on, hey, what would it cost to rehabilitate this existing foundation that we have? In the handout that I have here, this middle picture, just a reminder on where the Powell Street hangar is. We've got an existing hangar slab, and we've also, as Ernest was talking about, we've got some existing metal steel that we can use to fabricate and construct the hangar there. And so the question that we asked Olkey is, hey, how much would it cost for you guys to build this thing, to finish this out to completion? So that's going to include finishing the hangar. We have to extend a water line across Powell there just to meet fire code requirements, and that's also including some detention pond site work as well as constructing an apron. So this project is very similar to the East Hangar construction project, where we've got a hangar piece and then also a site development piece as well. So a lot going on this project. As you remember from the last time we talked, we had a meeting with Olkey and Greg. Greg was there as well to determine, hey, what type of things can we do to change this project to decrease the cost? We called it value engineering. And so that's where we're going to go into this sheet that I have here at the very top of the page. First thing I want to hit off is during that meeting, we realized that the previous estimate, there were some errors made in the previous estimate, mainly to do with how much paving they were planning on installing with the apron. And so that first highlighted cell right there, that $507,000, that has been updated. This is the new number that we received from them on that paving cost. So if you were to compare this to what Adam brought to you previously, this number has been updated to reflect the additional paving and fix that error there. So as we move down these line items, we're going to walk you through what's included in each one and kind of the cost savings with it. So you can see that first line item number one, we've got the original proposal. And then we have the value engineer proposal as the second column, and then the third column is the cost difference between them. And so with the original proposal, it's building out the full apron, building out the full hangar. With the value engineered proposal is the picture that I have shown at the bottom. You can see the red hangar building. If you guys recall, there was a very expensive firewall that was required in that previous design. And so to mitigate the need for that firewall, we could shrink the size of the building, move that wall further away from the property line, and we could save $100,000 just like that. And so you can see what that initial plan for the building looks like. We're going to shrink the size of the building. That's going to remove one of the hangar doors and then provide a little shaded carport style structure there on that far right side of the drawing there at the bottom. And so now I'm going to walk through some of the numbers that I have listed at the top. So you can see, like I said, we've got the original proposal listed in the first column, the value engineer proposal listed in the second column, and then the cost difference listed on the far right column right there. And the number that I really want to focus on are the two numbers that I've highlighted in blue at the very bottom. The original proposal came in at just under $750,000. With the value engineering, removing things like the firewall, removing that additional hangar door. Those are the two big ticket items. As well as you can see, we got some savings in the epoxy floor coating as well as some bonds. That saved you about $200,000 from the total project. So what we can do with this new value engineered proposal, the hangar that I've shown at the bottom of the sheet, is we can decrease the total project cost by about $200,000 and come in right at about $550,000 for that hangar.
And that includes the rest of the infrastructure for that line of hangars up there, right?
That includes the water line extension. It doesn't include any sewer work. If we wanted to do a sewer line, that I know we talked previously about bringing that in through an access road or something like that. So this hangar will not have bathroom access or anything like that. Just for the water line is what's included in this.
And for future hangars in that area, the water line, the detention pond, those will all be
Correct.
used for them.
Yeah, so that detention pond, I don't know if we ever showed you guys the original proposal, but there's 3 hangars proposed in this same area. And so that detention pond is sized for those 3 hangars, as well as the water line. We'll have to add another hydrant, but that's it for those future projects.
We need to look at that sewer line too.
Okay.
For that entire street.
So you'd be interested in adding a bathroom to this hangar? Is that what you're interested in?
I think the type of hangars be built there, it will be necessary.
Okay.
It would help us.
I'll make a note of that to see if that's still an option. I know with the foundation being there already, it might be a little bit of rework to add a bathroom into that.
I'm not so much concerned about that one.
Okay.
But the future ones, the future hangars.
Perfect. Yeah, we can add
Already
that.
in
And
infrastructure.
I know one of the items that we had on the CIP was the extending an access road behind there, and one of the things that we want to include in that project is extending utilities along that road. So I'll make a note to include that as something we look at with James as we update the CIP.
Is that south, the sewer line that we would tie into, is that south or is that west?
We would run that sewer line from Powell to the south of the hangar.
Yeah.
It'll run along.
The access in that tile.
What is the size, what is the revised size of that hangar?
So we cut off about 1,000 square feet total. Yeah, it's about 6,600 square feet. And the original one was just under 7,700 square feet. So yeah, we cut off about 1,000 square feet.
So
to be able
basically
to-
60 by 100,
Yeah, 60 by
somewhere.
100.
Yes, sir.
Still a good size hangar.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the.
And we talked about the additional floor back there could be used for parking and some of those things, you know, for storage.
Right.
Just wouldn't have a roof on it.
One more item just to put on you all's brains for while I've got you here. The very last item that I have is the cost comparison per square foot. You can see that at the very bottom. And so I've got 3 columns here. I've got the original proposal that came in at $97 a square foot. This is per square foot of rentable space, so of covered, rentable space. I'll just leave it at that. The value engineer proposal came in at $82, and then the East Hangar site development, so that's the one off of 265, came in at $117. So compared to the East Hangar, you guys are saving about $30 per square foot on having that existing foundation, being able to utilize the existing foundation, utilize the existing steel that we have out there. So that's a really good savings there.
Did they confirm exactly what portion of the steel that they can or can't use?
Yes.
Did they?
Yeah, they provided an inventory to me, and I have it in a spreadsheet that I'd be happy to forward on to you guys. But as you recall, it's about 30% that they were able to reuse.
Okay, only about 30%.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They were conservative in that. They said, hey, maybe we can get a little bit more, but it's hard to know exactly if it's all gonna fit together when you start.
Yeah.
And so one more thing, just to tie all this back into what Adam mentioned earlier with the ADA, increasing the cap on their 80-20 grants to 400,000. So this project could fit perfectly into that category. The next steps for us moving forward, if this is something that you guys are interested in, is deciding which one of these proposals you would like to go with. Do we want to go with the full build out with the firewall? Do we want to go with the value engineered proposal, save some money? We can take either of those. We can get with James, make a call to the state to see if this is something that they would entertain the grant for. We've seen them do projects like this before where they will fund, building hangars on existing foundations. What they may have an issue with is that it's not openly or publicly bid. And so that's just what we want to give them a call, see where they land on that, and then we can react to it from there.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's the first step.
Is there a preference on which one of these proposals?
Value engineering.
Valued,
Okay.
my opinion.
Any other questions that I can help answer you guys on that Powell hanger? Great. So before the next meeting, we will meet with James, make the call to the ADA, and hopefully we can have good news and get this project started. One final thing that I want to talk about, Bill, I believe you mentioned it at the last meeting, and I know that was 3 months ago now, talking about repainting the Compass Rose.
Yes.
I just wanted to hit on this one real quick. The concern we had is that if you guys remember the CIP list, the relocation of that west taxiway in the next 5 years, and that's actually the project we've targeted for probably closer to the 3-year timeline. With that project, we'd be moving the taxiway pretty much 50 feet, shifting it 50 feet to the left, and so that would mean that it would go right on top of where that existing Compass Rose is. And so that was your main concern there, was that, hey, do we want to repaint this if we're going to end up busting through it later? And so we went back, and I said I'd bring an exhibit to you all to look at, but we went back and looked at it and kind of spent some time thinking about it. The other options where we could put that Compass Rose are on the apron. However, there are some issues with putting it on an apron. We don't want it to be next to buildings because there's some guidelines that say, hey, the buildings create some issues with being able to calibrate that equipment there, as well as it also becomes an issue for, we'd have to look at where do we want to put it to keep it out of taxiing aircraft? Do we want to have to put it in a place where we might have to get rid of some tie downs, something like that? And so that was something that there's a lot of unknowns associated with moving it right now. And there's also some unknowns associated with that West Taxiway project. And so my recommendation for that is let's go ahead and tell them, let's put it back where it was, in that same area in the northwestern corner of the taxiway. And as we get a better idea of what this West Taxiway reconstruction project could be, we can start planning where we want to put that in the future. And some more of the unknowns on that West Taxiway project is we received an email from the FAA whenever we submitted it, is we might have to break it up into multiple phases just because it's a very big project. If you remember, it's a $10 million estimated cost. And so I could see them wanting to break it up into $3 million projects or 2 $5 million projects, something like that. And so that could mean we do the south portion first, and that leaves the north portion there a little bit longer. There's just a lot of unknowns associated with it.
Okay, so the 99s could look at this spring, just, getting it revamped.
Yep.
With the understanding that 3 to 5 years down the road, then, it's
Right.
likely going to be. Now, what about paint availability. I know it's been mentioned earlier that there wasn't any paint available. Is there any update on that from, as far as the city providing the materials?
I don't know about the city. I do know we've had projects that have been delayed because of paint, of all kinds of what I would consider traffic type paint. But James, I don't know if y'all know from a city standpoint if y'all have issues.
We still have issues. We're not
Yeah.
a large enough buyer. So, I mean, we wait until we can get it.
The other thing I was gonna say is if the 99's painted there and we plow through it with our construction project, then the FAA will pay to repaint it. So
That's all I had. If I can take any questions, I'll take them now. Awesome. Thank you.
You asked what our preference is. Do you need us to move on any one of these proposals?
verbal, I think. is
Right.
fine.
Okay.
Like value engineering, we'll have to come
Right.
back to you.
Okay.
State, give
Very
us a
good.
thumbs up on the grant.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any old business? Comments from commissioners?
I had someone contact me, I talked to Laura about this beforehand, and someone contacted me about parking near the hangars. Sounds like it's been an ongoing thing for a while, so I don't know what we need to do as far as people going in, accessing their hangars and parking on the grass, and they can't mow around it, and they rut it up if the ground's wet. There's been some issues with the taxiway, as well as coming around, I think there's a hangar where there's, they've kind of traditionally been able to park, or they've been able to park not too long ago, but now there's someone's coming through there that can't make the turn with the cars are in the wrong spots there or whatever. Is there guidance that we could give to them? Is there something we need to post that kind of gives them better answers on this? I mean, I get it. If I had an airplane out there and I was having to park at the terminal and walk all the way out there every single time, it'd be annoying. And I understand the risk of you're moving a lot of equipment around. If you pull an airplane out, you put your car in, then you fly the airplane for an hour, you come back, you're having to move a car out. You're doing this. I understand there's a lot of movement to those parts. I just didn't know how to respond with the concern that I had texted.
As a user of the airport for 40 years, I can honestly say that, you know, if that becomes a problem for the user, then it's his own fault because he can get, if he pulls the airplane out, he can put it inside. If he's not pulling the aircraft out, he can park it in front of the door. I would say this is a policing issue with the facility directors, Laura and anyone else there could go out to call their attention to them. And if you have a user that's doing this quite often, you know, really let him know that it's a problem. And,
I think it's a flight club and they're all kind of parking together, and that's part of
well,
it.
that should be easily handled. Just make them park in the
We have
parking
parking
lot
up
or
on
something.
Powell Street as well, so they can park up there at hangar 14, which is real close to the T hangars.
Yeah, I think you can get cooperation from them, but, I do know that different people, they get in a habit. And, pardon me? Trying to dodge a car. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always told tenants, you rent just the hangar, no space on the outside of that hangar is yours. So everything you do has to be in your hangar for that reason.
Yeah, you're always gonna have these isolated instances where someone's gonna do something that's just not.
That's been the issue, is that we kind of let it go because it hadn't been an issue. And then when it became an issue, now it's like we're suddenly singling people out, and that's not the case at all, because we're telling everybody, park inside your hangar also. If you're gonna be there working on your plane, then it's not a big issue to be out on your apron area, or, you know, that you can move it if someone comes by. But if you leave the airport, leave your car parked wherever you
Right.
want, then that's when we start having issues.
It should never be left there unattended, I wouldn't think. And I believe you can police that. Let's just get a little more firm with them.
She's been policing it. I just had some people saying, should that be policed?
He doesn't like
So,
it.
I've had some people who weren't happy about it being policed. They park like that for a
Oh,
long
well.
time. So we wanted to know if that's the policy or what the deal is.
Well, I think James had a pretty good answer for that. You know, they're not leasing the whole airport. For them to access it, driving through the gate and going to the hangar, that's a plus. You know, in my opinion.
I'll communicate back that
Yes.
they release the space in the hangar. That's where we want you to park. If you're working on something in the hangar, by all means,
Use some
find a
common
park in
sense.
front of the door, but
Use some
common sense.
use some common sense.
It's not very common anymore.
Well, I know.
Especially when they keep running
That is
over
true.
$150
We have these
reflectors and
issues.
drive away.
We have these issues in residential areas, you know.
Yeah. So is that part of the reason for suggesting them park at the terminal, because then we don't have a vehicle out there that could get into trouble?
Well, they park there, they forget about a reflector, and then they just back right over it.
Yeah.
That's what it was conveyed to me, so I wanted to make sure it was posted. So it sounds like you did it all. So.
Well, it'll usually be a repeat offender. It won't be some, you won't have everybody doing it. So it'll just be one or two
Yeah.
guys doing it.
Yep.
That's easily handled.
A tow truck will solve that real well too.
I've got one more comment or something I'd like to just suggest to the commissioners. With these funds that it sounds like we're, gonna have available to us going forward, do we need to take a look at the last open T hangar, and is there anything we can do there to enclose it?
James addressed that before. He wants to open the air.
Okay.
I need those, you have your tenants that want those?
They are
We
a
need-
desirable commodity.
Right, we need more
But
hangers.
if you think about it, we got all that Powell Street property. We're in pretty good shape for a while on hangar. But it's really a godsend. And that road going down behind those over there to the south, if that's eligible for it, that's gonna expedite that, because that's one of the things that we were looking at trying to do. So I think we got plenty of projects for a while.
Is there anything seen in the paper and whatnot about the Atco rubber building? How could that impact, our airport?
I can talk to that a little bit, because I've been involved in it.
Okay.
That building is for sale and not for sale, but it's for sale, whatever. And there's a price on it. The city brought this up in a council meeting or committee meeting, and there's reasonable, you could reasonably expect that they are gonna move forward on it, at least going toward purchasing that building. The kicker to it is the present owners wants to lease it for at least 2 years, maybe beyond that. And it's not really, we've looked at it from a hangar standpoint and stuff like that. So it's more conducive to leasing out to engine shops and things of this nature. Not that it can't be used for hangars. Let me tell you what really the city interest in that is. Alignment of Sunset. If you look at that building and look at the parking on the north side of it, it lines up with Sunset. And that's the purpose. They would love to come across the track to Sunset and go straight into the airport. And that's been on the books for a long time. So that's what triggered it.
Good.
But the city felt like it was affordable what they are asking for. I think you'll hear more about that. Anything else?
No, sir.
Not, we'll adjourn.